Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to the YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our 3-game match reviews. Yes, here we are for another 3 games. Footy goes so fast when it's around, don't you guys agree? Here we are for the second 3-game match reviews of round 19 of the 2022 AFL season. And I will tell you again, as I always do, there were 3 massive games right here. And interesting fact, these 3 games have Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne teams contending for the top 4 and Port Adelaide, Gold Coast, Western Bulldogs teams contending for the top 8. So this is going to be probably one of the biggest 3-game match reviews we've done all year. We learned a lot more about these teams, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go ahead and hop right into things with Port Adelaide and Geelong. But before I do, I just want to say a little shout out to Shannon Humphreys. It's their birthday, so shout out to Shannon. But anyway, Port Adelaide versus Geelong, Adelaide Oval. And yes, we learned a lot more about these 3 teams. Port Adelaide, Geelong, Adelaide Oval. So the first game of this 3-game match reviews was Port Adelaide versus Geelong at the Adelaide Oval for Saturday afternoon, or Saturday twilight footy, as I like to call it. And Port Adelaide 14-10-94, the Cats 16-10-106. The Cats were just way too strong in the end. But Port Adelaide were showing signs of improvement, but this could potentially and probably will be their season over. Now, Port Adelaide played pretty well in the first quarter, but Jeremy Cameron's late snap gave the Cats momentum into the quarter time break, and then at half time, it did look over. It was 69-35, and then Port Adelaide, they owned the third quarter. They smashed the Cats they smashed them in the third quarter. They were so strong. They kicked 8 goals to 1 to have the lead at 3-quarter time. But then the Cats kicked the first of the last 1-point game, and then they just come too strong. Port Adelaide do come again later on in the game, but the Cats just kicked the last 1-2 goals of the game to finish it off. And they were just too strong, and they've got such a brilliant list. Even though they're still aging, they are still playing their best footy, and they looked really good, and this is a big win. They're going to be on top of the table, the game clear of the Demons. But Zach Tui, 27 disposals was good. Tom Hawkins, 4 goals, looked brilliant. Again, point of difference. Carl Amon, 126 fantasy, 8 tackles for Willem Drew. But it was a really exciting contest. It had, again, and like what these games are going to be having in this 3-game match reviews, a finals-like atmosphere, which is something that a lot of these, something that I'm going to be talking about a lot in these 3-game match reviews as we are coming towards the end of the year. Games are starting to feel like finals, whether just the atmosphere for one or both the teams can feel like a real finals atmosphere. And this game had it. But one team was just clearly better than the other on the day. Carl Amon, 126 fantasy, 111 for Burton, 109 for Power Pepper, 102 for Aliir, 100 for Rosie, 94 for Dixon. You can see those are all Port Adelaide players with the highest fantasy. But again, fantasy doesn't really mean anything. It means the little things that you can do. Tom Atkins, underrated, really. 92 fantasy, 85 for Boak and Tui. But yeah, definitely underrated is Tom Atkins. He did some really important little things. 4 goals for Hawkins, 3 for Cameron. They combined for 7. 3 goals for Georgiades and took a hanger. 2 for Dixon, Marshall, Power Pepper, Stengel and Rowan. But it was a really exciting, high-scoring, free-flowing game of Saturday twilight footy. Tui, 27 disposals, 25 for Amon and Burton, as well as Atkins and Guthrie. And again, Atkins, he doesn't rack up your 30 disposals like your best players, Boak, Wines, Dangerfield, but he still does do enough, and little things matter in the games of AFL footy, and they can go unnoticed. Amon, 13 marks, 11 for Aliir, 9 for DeConing and Kolajasny, 8 for Jonas and Burton. Now to tackles we go. 8 for Drew, 7 for Rosie, Atkins, close. 6 for Blitzards. Again, Atkins with the 7 tackles. He does do the tackle a fair lot. Mark Blitzards, 18 hit out, 16 for Stanley, 11 for Neil, 10 for Finlayson, 7 for Dixon, 2 for Power Pepper and Hawkins. Now to team stats we go, where Port Adelaide did go inside 50 10 more times than the Cats, but the Cats resulting more efficient and more better inside 50. They smashed Port Adelaide in the hitouts. Again, Port Adelaide have been opting not to go with the recognised ruckman, which could be the deciding factor in some of these games, maybe, because they've lost a few close games. Could it be down to the ruckman? Maybe. And then centre clearances was in favour of Port Adelaide, but stoppage was the Cats. And then nothing else looking more interesting. The Cats did lead for majority, most of the game, and I think personally still they were the deserving winners. They were the best in 3 quarters. Port Adelaide only owning that third quarter. And I feel like the Cats were just too strong. I reckon they've really wedged their way into premiership favourites. Now to the Gabba we go for an oddly timed Q Clash. It started 7:10, which before the other game started at 7:25. So interesting time to put it at the AFL, but okay, still a game of footy. So you don't harm the opinion. Brisbane 16-14, 110. Gold Coast 14-9, 93. This was a more promising performance from Gold Coast, as we know what Brisbane have done to them over the years in a Q Clash, but it still wasn't good enough by the Gold Coast Suns. They still go down by 17 points. And, this could be their season pretty much over, just like, as I said, with Port Adelaide a few minutes ago. But, again, they lost it in the last quarter, did Gold Coast, and Brisbane led for most of the game and were deserving winners. They are looking for a top 4 finish and will possibly get that. This is another strengthy performance at the Gabba. They don't tend to smash teams out there, but they do a pretty good job there and have a very good percentage of winning up there. But the first 2 halves was Brisbane, although Gold Coast did play well in the second half, kicking 5 goals to 2. But Brisbane led for majority of the first half. Then the third quarter, Gold Coast got the momentum going, even though, they kicked 5 goals apiece. And then in the final quarter, Gold Coast just gave up. They didn't have enough energy left, and Brisbane are a high-energy team. They've got many plays. If it's not one that will hurt you, it'll be another, and if it's not them, it'll be another. They've got so many different avenues to Brisbane. Their midfield's so good, forward line, again, and their defence is pretty good as well. So, yeah, no surprise at Brisbane winning this game. But, yeah, it was a brilliant win by the Brisbane Lions, who really needed another strengthy performance. And this was definitely a good one after a really good smashing last week. They come back to the Gabba and show they can play pretty well on their home turf. After being down 3/4 time, kicking 5 goals to 1 in the last 2. Well, not just win, but win in a big way as well. Tuke Miller, 34 disposals, 4 goals for Levi Casbolt, 121 fantasy for Wits, 8 tackles for Charlie Cameron. But this is a really good team. Again, another flag contender. They'll just be looking to stay away from the MCG, and if they're away from there, they'll be fine. AFL Fantasy, 121 for Wits, 120 for Miller. Wits is a brilliant ruckman, 50 hit-outs, that's just 7 tackles for a big man. That's brilliant. 14 disposals. Miller, 120. Anderson, 109, 108 for Ellis, 99 for Cameron, 97 for McCluggage. Kicked 4 goals last week with the one this week. 96 for Bailey, 95 for Neil, 88 for Lyons, 86 for Zorko, 73 for Matheson. Some really good names there for Brisbane. Really stacked engine as well. Levi Casbolt with the 4 goals. Joe Danaher with the 3 goals, 4. Charlie Cameron with 3 goals as well. Mubby Troll, Hollands on debut actually played pretty well. 2 for McCarthy, Matheson and Ellis as well. Now to disposals. 34 for Miller, 32 for Neil, 31 for Anderson, 29 for Ellis, 25 for McCluggage, 24 for Bailey. Now to marks. 8 for McCluggage, 7 for Starcevic, Ainsworth, Sawallo, Troll, and Atkins. Now tackles now. 8 for Cameron, 7 for Wits. Again, the big man getting in doing stuff. 7 for Miller, 6 for Berry. And hit-outs. Big man Jared Wits, really good with the 50 hit-outs. 19 for McInerney, 6 for McStay, 4 for Troll, 2 for Forts. Now to the team stats we go, where it was pretty much locked around the inside 50s, 55, 52. 3 more in favour of Brisbane. Free kicks, 24-19 in favour of Brisbane. The Suns won the hit-outs, but again, Brisbane's midfield is jam-packed. They've got really good guns. Matheson, he's had to play in the VFL a lot. He's had to wait. So it just goes to show how many options they've got in the midfield. Crazy, And then nothing else looking great so far. Suns took more marks inside 50. Brisbane led for most of the game and were deserving winners. They didn't necessarily blow out Gold Coast, but they did what they needed to do in another really good performance by Brisbane. They're looking for a top 4 spot. They'll probably get one. This was another brilliant performance. Now to a ripping grand final rematch, high-scoring grand final rematch at Marvel Stadium. We saw the draw on Friday night, 52-52. This was the exact opposite of that. It's one team outscored both of the other teams on Friday night. Western Bulldogs 17-8, 110. Demons 15-10, 100. The Doggies get the job done. They now look like the team that, well, they are currently in the 8. They now look like the team that will finish in 8th spot ahead of Richmond, because Richmond have got some worries, but this was a good performance by the Western Bulldogs, who were trailing for most of the game, but they were never down by too much. The Demons were good in the first quarter, and they led late. They kicked a few late goals to lead, and then the second quarter, the Doggies tried to come back, but the Demons kicked 1, 2, 3, 4 goals in a row. The Doggies kicked 2 late in the quarter, just to be around 15 points down. And then the third quarter is where the comeback really starts to begin. The Dogs get right back into touching range, but again, the Demons just kick a couple of late goals to, again, put themselves back in front. But then the last quarter, it is scenes as the Doggies keep the Demons to 1 goal. They kick 5 of their own and win the game. Off Jamari Ugle-Hagen's boot, and Riley Garcia as well. He kicked the important goal. Jamari Ugle-Hagen, 5 goals, career best, 29 disposals for Jack McRae, and the goal for him, 133 fantasy for Gawn. Gawn doing what Gawn does. 9 tackles for Bontempelli. Now to fantasy, 133 for Gawn, 126 for Brayshaw, 125 for Bontempelli, 116 for English, 107 for Bailey Smith, 106 for Richards, 102 for Dunkley, 101 for McRae, 98 for Treloar. You were looking for this complete performance by the Dogs, and this is exactly this one. Jamari Ugle-Hagen with the 5 goals, 4 for Fritsch, 3 for Wiedemann, 2 for Pickett, and Melksham, as well as Waitman, Norton, Garcia with that big one late in the game to put the Dogs in front. So calm, so cool. English, 2 goals as well. Disposals now, 29 for McRae and Brayshaw, 28 for Bailey Smith, Treloar, and Oliver, 27 for Dale, 26 for Bontempelli, 25 for Gawn. He does it a lot, does Max Gawn. 11 marks for Brayshaw, 10 for Keith and English, 8 for Richards, Gardner, Gawn, May, and there we go. Tackles now, 9 for Bontempelli, 7 for Williams, 6 for Dunkley. Now to hit outs, sorry about that. 40 for Gawn, 19 for English, 11 for Jackson, 3 for Bruce, 1 for Norton, 1 for Wiedemann. Bruce hasn't had the massive impact. He had 2 disposals for the whole game, the 19 fantasy, and the 3 hit-outs, 1 mark, 2 tackles. He hasn't been great since his comeback, Josh Bruce. The Doggies, though, they went inside 59 more times than the Demons. But this was that really full performance, though, that the Doggies needed. And this was a very good performance. And what no better time to do it than the grand final rematch against a team that you're obviously going to hate for beating you in the grand final last year. And you get your revenge. That is nice for the Western Bulldogs. Now, to hit-outs. Okay, right, my voice is going very bad. Alright, just bear with me for the end of this. My voice may not be that great. Still a little bit croaky. But anyway, let's just try and get through the rest of this. Now to the clearances, where the Doggies won that one by 7. But however, the Demons, again, both teams have really stacked midfields. But the Demons won his centre clearances. But stoppage clearances was in favour of the Western Bulldogs. So now, the Doggies had a lot more uncontested ball than the Demons. Took more marks. But the Demons took more marks inside 50. The Demons did lead for most of the game. They always had that pretty significant jump step on the Western Bulldogs, but the Doggies were never out of it. They were always just there and always willing to come back. It was a very high-scoring, free-flowing game. Really exciting for a grand final rematch. The Doggies get their revenge and win and catapult into the top 8. Alright, so now for the last little bit, Sunday footy, what have we got coming up? Well, Carlton versus GWS is the first game. Carlton now have little breathing room. The Doggies, they've jumped right up behind their tails, and Carlton have to win this, as to do Collingwood. They would be loving to beat the Bombers. And yeah, this one could go either way. And then the Eagles and the Saints. Boy, the Saints have got to hope for a win here, but things won't come easy against the Eagles. I feel like they're going to give this one their red-hot best. They're going to give it a red-hot crack, and they may even pull off the 4 points in this game. May West Coast. The latter, now the Cats are favourites to win the flag, or at least I would see that. The Demons, their little mishap has put them down on to 52 points with Brisbane, and then the Cats 56 points on top of the table all alone. That's what they'd be loving. The Dockers 2 points ahead. Well, 2 points ahead of the Swans and the Pies. But don't forget, the Pies still have a game in hand. So if the Pies happen to win, they can go catapulting up into the top 4, which would be massive scenes for Collingwood. And if they can try and hold it off for the rest of the year, they could finish in the top 4. So the Dockers, that does leave them unsteady, but they still did get points. The Swans are in 5th spot. Collingwood have to win to get up into the top 4. The Blues, now they'd be sitting pretty nervous. They'll have to beat the Giants, which you'd be thinking they would pretty comfortably. The Doggies now are in the 8 on 40 points. The Tigers are just half a game behind the Doggies on 38. The Saints have to win to go into 40 points and put themselves ahead of the Tigers. The Tigers haven't been looking great at recent times. So I don't know whether this is their year to get into the top 8. Port Adelaide and Gold Coast would be suspecting their season is over. Hawthorn have risen up onto 28 points, making a late surge. And, well, they could finish as high as, 11th. So they are going tough. And if the Bombers win today, they will join the Hawks on 28 points and go, no, we can't make finals. But, look, let's give it a red-hot crack. Let's go for 10th spot or something like that. And that is still very doable by a team like the Hawks or the Bombers. But they've been very inconsistent, so I still feel like Power and the Suns would deserve a spot above them. Bottom 4 sits Giants, Crows, Eagles, Roos, but if the Giants lose by a lot, the Crows might have a chance to jump up with some percentage, but I would highly doubt it. But anyway, that is how the ladder is looking. The round has been, what an interesting one so far when this wants to load. That's what we've had so far. The first draw of the year, absolute smashings, but this 3-game match reviews has been dedicated to the close games. Fantastic. It's been really close. 3 absolute epic games that we've just reviewed here. Alright, that's going to wrap us up for another 3-game match reviews. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you guys never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.